Hi everyone, I am Loretta, this is Loretta again, and I'm going to talk a little bit about prepping your horse to drive and how to get it into the cart. So first and foremost, it must be halter broke and be able to walk and trot in a halter or on lead. I know this may seem like a no-brainer to a few people, but I have seen and I am surprised by how many horses are trained to drive and ride before you can even do a simple thing as trotting them in like a halter class. I've seen so many horses that if it's allowed, people will go after and walk after the horse with a whip to get them to trot in a simple halter class. I believe that getting them to trot under halter and getting that connection where you can even canter, I know it's like the minis, I can sprint beside them on halter while they're cantering. I think that it builds a connection between you and your horse. So then being able to properly lunge your horse and being able to get the horse to respond to verbal cues is especially important, as when you're driving, one of the things that you have is your voice. Fitting a harness to your horse, getting your horse used to wearing the harness and properly fitting the harness to your horse is the next step. This will help the horse get used to the new equipment. Make sure that your harness is properly fitted before you start any more steps after this. We do have a few other videos on this channel about harness fitting, and we plan to do a few more, as each horse is different and each horse requires a different set of harnesses and getting the harness to adjust to them. Walk your horse in the harness, that way it gets used to the movement of the harness. Some horses are a little side sensitive and the harness does, especially when the harness is not connected to the cart, the straps do swing. The traces will hang loose if they're not hooked on the harness somehow. Lunge them in the harness to get your horse used to the harness and the harness moving with them and on them. I know with the breast collar and the traces it's a little hard to lunge them in. You can lunge them in the bridle. I know some people do that. I lunge them in the bridle, but I have a rope halter on that I connect the lead rope to that I lunge them on, which is how I lunge them in the bridle. I lunge them without the breast collar and without the traces, and I just walk them with the breast collar and traces on. Use pool noodles to help desensitize your horse. Pool noodles are a great way to desensitize your horse to get used to the feeling of the shafts of the cart. I would recommend ground, or some people call it line driving, your horse with the pool noodles on before you connect them to the cart. This will help with the side sensitivity that I was talking about. Have your horse drag a tire or logs or branches even behind them to get used to dragging or pulling weight. Then you can introduce them to the cart. When you introduce a horse to the cart, you walk your horse around the cart and get them used to the feeling of the cart's shafts touching their sides. So you walk the horse in between the shafts, and you can move the shafts up and down to where they're touching the side. I usually spend about 20 minutes a day for like a week doing this before I actually connect them to the cart. Once you connect them to the cart, make sure that the harness is properly fitted. Some horses it may seem like the harness is fitted before you actually connect them, and then once you connect them to the cart, you're like, oh, the breast collar isn't where it should be. So once you connect your horse to the cart and the harness is properly fitted, we can move on to the next step, where you walk your horse around in the cart while leading the horse. And this gets them used to the shafts and gets them used to pulling the weight of the cart. Once you do that, you can start driving them. By this, I mean you're standing behind the cart, ground driving them basically. They're still connected to the cart, but you're not in the cart yet. This will get them used to the feeling of you not being right next to them and them being able to drive and ground drive with the cart on. Another thing that you can do after you're able to do that is to add weight to the cart. Once you add weight, like feed bags or sandbags or any sort of weight to the cart, but still drive the cart behind the cart. Don't get in the cart quite yet. So if they freak out about pulling the weight, you are able to react better, and it's a little more safer than you hopping in the cart right away. And then once they are used to pulling weight in the cart, then you can get into the cart and drive them. This whole entire process, I know, will take a few weeks at least, depending on the horse, but it is well worth it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I know that I will often tell people that driving and training a horse to drive is lot more dangerous than riding. The reason I say this is that you only have the lines and the voice to control your horse. The lines can snap, but your voice can remain strong. While riding, you have your legs and the saddle to hold on to. I know some people might disagree with me on that, but please remain safe when trying to train your horse to drive, or send them to a professional to train them to drive. I know here at Hitchin' a Dream, I often train a lot of client horses to drive, and I use this process. Depending on how long they are sent here will depend on how far I can get them along in their training, as each horse learns differently and is able to get the process faster than other horses. Once your horse is broke to drive, it is much easier, I believe, to break them to ride, as they will know and understand verbal cues and weight on their back from the harness. So, in my experience, it is easier to train a horse to drive first, and then to train him to ride. I thought that I could train a horse to ride first. I recently got a quarter pony, and I've learned that training her and the driving process is much easier than throwing her on the saddle first. I just halter broke her, and she has been introduced to the saddle, but training her with the harness and driving is going to be a much easier and effective way. I learned this with the minis, but I thought it might be a little different with her, since I was halter breaking her and then introducing her to the saddle, but my belief is still the same, as I have learned it the hard way. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions. Please let me know if there is anything else that you would like me to go over. Please don't hesitate to subscribe to Hitchin' a Dream Farm YouTube channel, and to tag or comment with any questions, or message me personally. Thank you.